Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/Entitled People. Today we have one more set of great stories for you to enjoy. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. And our first story. Deny my wages and steal my stuff? I'll take that and more, and prevent you from owning a business again. About 5 or 6 years ago, I was doing my apprenticeship to become a mechanic. I managed to land my apprentice role at a classic car restoration shop. It was a one-man band operation run by an ex-Lotus technician. We'll call him Slimy Git. And I thought it'd be a great business to be a part of and help grow. Unfortunately, I was wrong. Looking back on it, Slimy Grit clearly only took me on because the UK government has an arrangement with various trade industries that if a company takes on an apprentice, taking part in an official apprenticeship scheme, which I was, the government gives the company a cash grant. They're also allowed to pay apprentices well below the minimum wage as an additional incentive. During my 11 months at that workshop, I earned only £300 a month. So SG got free cash and also got to use me as dirt cheap labor. But I was willing to put up with it for a couple of years to learn the trade on awesome old cars. It didn't turn out that way. While I was working there, SG asked me to do many questionable things, including removing parts from a customer's car and using them to fix another car of the same model that we had in the shop, and disassembling a large part of another customer's car before ceasing all work on it. I later found out that this was his tactic to put the car in an undrivable state and then effectively hold it hostage so he could extort more money from the car's owner for repairs that ultimately we would never do. I really wish I'd wisened up to what SG was doing at this time, and I feel really awful for my part in his fraud, but I was a young, naive apprentice, and I just did what I was told. Then one Monday, in late 2014, I turned up for work in the morning, and SG didn't. After an hour of waiting, I drove home again and fired up my computer and found an email from SG saying that he was super sorry, but he was closing the business. And that was that. At the time, he was overdue with my wages by 2 months, but promised in the email to pay them into my account before long. That was the last I ever heard from him. He never replied to any of my emails or picked up his phone, and of course, I never got my last 2 months' wages, leaving me £600 out of pocket. Not only that, but SG stole my socket set, worth £100. By the time I was able to get the landlord of the workshop to let me in to retrieve it, all the tools were cleared out. I was totally effing furious, as you can imagine. But luckily, my dad knows what to do in this kind of situation, so we started putting together a case for small claims court. We basically assembled as much evidence as we could that I was owed money, with a demand that SG pay me £700, unpaid wages plus the socket set. We sent it to the county court. I suppose similar to a district court in the U.S. The court accepted our case and sent it to SG to give him the chance to respond. He responded basically saying that because I had been employed by the company, that he was the sole proprietor of, and not directly by him, he didn't have to pay me, as the company was no longer in existence. We wrote back to the court asserting that this was basically BS, especially as I had an email from SG's personal account promising to pay me. The court agreed, and lacking any further replies from SG, automatically settled in our favor, slapping SG with a county court judgment, CCJ, ordering him to pay me the £700. If you're not from the UK, the CCJ is a real ball and chain to have on your name. It can make it very difficult or downright impossible to do things like apply for credit cards, buy things on finance, get a loan or a mortgage, or start a new business. I'm not sure exactly how you get rid of one, but obviously paying the debt it was awarded for probably helps. What it did do, though, was give us the option to have government bailiffs forcibly collect these £700 from SG. One problem, though. I didn't know where SG lived, as he'd moved out of his old house a month or so before, clearly part of his escape plan, and I didn't know his new address. We appealed to the same county court to furnish us with SG's address, but they wouldn't because of some ridiculous bureaucratic reason. I imagine to do with data protection or something. If I wanted to get my money back, I'd have to somehow find out SG's new address. Short of hiring a PI, I had no idea how to do this, so reluctantly I decided to let the issue go and chalk it up to experience and hope the CCJ would give SG grief in the future. Fast forward to last year. A letter drops into my doormat. It's from a county court, this time in Kent, which is about 300 miles from where I live. Turns out SG had moved there and applied to the court to have his CCJ dismissed, as apparently he'd tried to set up a new business and had applied for a bank loan and had been denied both by Companies House, the government register where all businesses in the UK must be registered, and by the bank because of my CCJ against his name. The court had contacted me to ask if I wanted to oppose his motion to dismiss the CCJ. You bet your butt I did. My dad and I got a hold of all of our original evidence from 4 years earlier, which luckily my dad still had on his computer, and tracked all the way to Kent to face this effer in court. Since CCJs and small claim stuff is fairly low level, lawyers are apparently not usually involved in the court proceedings, so SG and I were representing ourselves. The judge asked me first what the original CCJ was about. I'd summarized it for him, stating that I was after my £700. The judge then turned to SG and asked him why, after 4 years, he hadn't paid the debt. SG then goes on a whiny little tale, giving the same argument that he gave 4 years ago, that I was employed by his company, not by him, and that the CCJ was unfair and that I was being vindictive. The judge asked for my response, and I simply told him that was SG's original defense, that if it hadn't stood up in a different court 4 years ago, it shouldn't stand up now. There was a bit more back and forth, but ultimately the judge agreed with me and gave his ruling. Not only did the judge order SG to pay us not £700, but £1,000 to compensate us for interest and having to come to Kent to go to court, but also slapped the CCJ on him for another 5 years. He actually said to SG, "You are a deceitful man who clearly cannot be trusted with a business or with employees." As soon as we were done, SG turned and stormed out of the courtroom. And that was the last time I saw him. I waited for a check for my £1,000 to arrive, so finally, after years of waiting, I get my wages, tool money, and the satisfaction of knowing SG won't be able to scam any more customers or employees for years. A-hole. Respect. Properly executed, you got a damn good and honorable judge there. That 5 years is delicious revenge. And our next story. I helped get my wife's boss fired. So this is a story about how my wife and I got her boss fired. For reference, my wife will be called Mary, and her boss is Karen. I know, original, right? So Mary started working for a college 5 years ago as an administrative assistant. She was given odd and end tasks, one of which was writing up the school handbook. She noted in the handbook that staff were required to take time for professional development. After some years and a few promotions, she lands a manager position in the department and spearheads an initiative to have all staff under her have approved time to attend professional development conferences. Karen always rejected this idea, but Mary decided one day to go to Karen's boss, we'll call Bob. Bob's great. Once Mary had enough weight in this college, she went around Karen and got Bob to approve conferences for everyone in the department. So for the next year or so, everyone got to choose any conference around the continental U.S. to attend on the company dime. Everyone would come back with notes taken at every session attended, attached with a conference itinerary, and given to their direct superior as proof of attendance. The employee would also present key points learned from their conference at a weekly departmental meeting. Pretty simple morale-boosting opportunity, until someone had to abuse it. Karen had been bragging to other department directors as well as to Mary about swimming with dolphins during her recent travel to a conference. Mary didn't think that much of it, as there was usually a free morning or afternoon to do as you please at these conferences. My wife told me this during our nightly pillow talk, and having been raised in Orlando, where Karen decided to attend a conference, my head popped up and I asked, "Where?" Mary replied with a well-known location run by a well-known company with a whale for a logo. I quickly replied that they close at 5:30. When did Karen have time for this? Mary, who had access to Karen's itinerary, dropped her jaw when she realized the conference Karen attended did not have free time during business hours of the dolphin swimming experience. Mary went into an enraged clerical fury as she pulled up Karen's full travel itinerary for flight, hotel, conference, and other reimbursements. The school does most departmental work online, and therefore the school's server can be accessed remotely from secured or approved devices like Mary's phone. She also checked the website where Karen went swimming at to confirm hours of operation. According to the records submitted, there was no way Karen had time to swim with the dolphins during the experience's normal business hours without missing part of this conference, and according to Karen's itinerary, she was supposed to have attended all sessions. Mary worked hard to have the privilege to travel the country to attend conferences, and Karen just effed it all up. Mary eventually wrote all of this up, attached the itinerary documents, attached photos of the encounter, and apparently from other theme parks that Karen had neglected to mention, from social media, attached the hours of operation, and sent this all to Bob. Mary texted me about an hour after she got to work the next day, saying Bob was livid. He was currently in the process of questioning everyone Karen had bragged to see if the stories all matched up. A few days later, Karen was fired from the company for only attending one session of the 3-day conference, lying about her report filed, using company funds for travel, hotel, and food to go play at theme parks, and for submitting a time card to get paid while doing all of that. Although Mary's name was anonymous through all of this, Karen seemed to blame Mary anyway. Karen sent mean and dark texts to Mary several times until the school could send a cease and desist. Worst of all, I guess Karen's husband was a deadbeat, so not only did Karen have to trade in her massive SUV for a smaller vehicle, she also had just signed on a new house only days before she was fired and now had no income to support said home. I'm not completely cynical, people shouldn't be homeless, but Karen had also taken credit for a lot of Mary's work, made Mary do Karen's workload while Karen went to AFK, and many other instances of foul play I can't remember because there's so much pillow talk. Needless to say, Karen reaped what she sowed. Companies work hard on their image. For someone like her to waste money made from the company just to hang out with some dolphins isn't okay. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.